Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Let's Keep Talking. I'm your host, Braxton Gilbert, and today is actually episode 40, not last week. I kind of felt like an idiot last week when I was editing that video and went to post it and saw that it was not episode 40. It was episode 39. So today is actually episode 40, and that's exciting. This has been really cool. That is 4 times 10 great episodes that have been challenging and ultimately have been getting this show closer and closer and closer to its purpose or its point. I am really, really excited about the next 40 episodes, and I really can't wait to see and to hear what the show has become with another rotation of 40 episodes. To a little bit of a backstory, when I was starting this show, I was nervous, man. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to talk about. Even to this point today, I'm still figuring that out, exactly what I want this show to be about. But the thing that I told myself that helped me to get over the ledge and start the show was I wrote down on a piece of paper 50 episodes finding flow. And so in my mind, I still have about 10 more episodes until I'm done with that, right? 50 episodes finding flow. But the intention is I'm going to do 50 episodes that at the moment seem great, that at the time seem like a great episode. And I'm going to give myself a lot of patience, a lot of grace, a lot of space. And at 50 episodes, we'll see where we're at. We'll see what kind of sound we're creating. We'll see what kind of story we're telling, what kind of message we're promoting. And I have to say I'm really happy about the direction of the show so far. So if this is your first episode listening to Let's Keep Talking, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for checking out the show. If this is not your first episode, damn. Thanks so much for rocking with me. Thanks for taking your time. Thanks for vibing with me. I appreciate the fact that you like this show. And if you're just listening because you want to make fun of me, that too, man. I appreciate the stream, baby. So, let's get real, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we're talking about today. The last couple weeks, the last couple shows have been about being a workaholic, and this is something that's been hard for me, man. This is something that has been hard for me. I started doing training. I started doing business. I started training and building up my own business when I was 15 years old as a trainer, 16 years old as a trainer, 17. At 17, I was making like $10,000 a month. At 18, I opened my first gym. 19, I had 5 staff members, and I was at a much larger facility. 20, 21, 22, I had become a partner in other businesses, fitness related, had started doing some real estate investing, and I have just really enjoyed the business money train, baby. I've really enjoyed it. When I was 22, so about 3 years ago, or 23, 2 years ago, damn, I'm almost 26. Okay, so when I was 23 or 24, because it's been about 2 years, I don't know, man, I just started not to click anymore. It just started not to click. It was like, this whole work stuff is cool, man, but I don't know, man. Are you happy? It all started out when I was well, not to go into too much detail. I've talked about it before at other podcasts, but long story short, I thought I lost my best friend. And that made me go, like in an instant, damn, all this time and effort I'm putting towards chasing the next achievement has kind of become an obsession that bleeds into all my hours in a way that's getting in the way of other things, like my cherishing of my time with those I love and the true enjoyment of the things in front of me, whether that be a concert or playing a game with family or eating a meal with Lauren. So I've been on a journey. For about 2 years now to see the kind of man that I want to be now. After years, from 15 until 23, 24, being on the work train, I loved it, dude. So that work stuff was invigorating. And that's what I want to talk today about is is the feeling of working being such a drug, such a rush, that it kind of masks some of the current emotions that are going on in your life. So in the last few months, my approach to figuring out what kind of man I want to be, what kind of worker I want to be, what kind of direction I want in my life, has been essentially to just excommunicate myself with the workaholic version of me. And that started first off with starting the show, doing more creative work. And then it kind of hit its climax, I guess you could say, in February, when the main regret I had was I wanted to go to New York City. I've wanted to live in New York City. And so I told my girlfriend, Lauren, I said, hey, babe, let's just go live in New York, man. Let's go live in New York for a month. Then let's go get jobs up there, waiting tables. Let's just go. Let me ditch this workaholic stuff. Let me ditch this. Oh, I'm going to be such a successful, awesome man. I'm going to be so cool. I'm going to have all this stuff, because it's starting to feel like golden handcuffs. I want to go and be free. I want to go and just enjoy my time and have it not hooked to this incessant need to work all the time. And so we did. We went to New York for a month in February, and that was awesome. And that taught me so much about my relationship with work and how much it was based in fear, and how much I was missing out on love and connection and presence in a way that I hadn't experienced before. So, all that to say, it's been a few months now. Where I have really pulled back from work altogether and renounced the work stuff and said, you know what? I don't want to be a workaholic. I don't want my life to just be, I made money. I made a bunch of money, man. Woohoo! I don't want that to be the point. I want depth. I want love I want my romantic relationship to grow deeper. I want to have children. I want to have a family. I want to be a good man. And I know this is a little bit of a long intro, so I appreciate you rocking with me, but it's a lot on my mind. It's a lot on my heart. So I wanted to be a good man. I'd always associated this. Up until now, I had associated workaholic, that word, and businessman with kind of a chaotic, overbearing, unorganized, obsessed type behavior. I kind of associated being successful and being a work guy, or being successful in the work field, in industry or in real estate or in fitness, for instance. I'd associated that with being this kind of egotistical, chaotic, the man kind of thing. And I recently learned that doesn't have to be the way that it has to be. But today, for this episode, what I want to talk to you guys about is what's going on right now in this journey of workaholism and recovery and rediscovery, even. So here's a quick opening for this episode. And I wrote this down last night. This week has been so tough for me. I have felt the urges to go back and get on the sex-addict workaholic train. However, I felt so much love and presence in my relationship, in my family, and in my friends in ways I've never felt before, and I love it. But there's a part of me that feels like life sucks without the rush, baby. And it's honestly been really hard to stay the course. One main reason is because without the rush of working, of achieving, of being the man, I'm left sitting with all these real, painful fears and insecurities. I have learned this week, and this is the last 2 weeks, I've learned in the last 2 weeks that one of the greatest aspects to being an addict is the numbing effect on your inner pain. That's what I want to talk to you about today in this conversation about work and mental health, from someone who has been driven and working like a madman for about 9 years now. I want to talk to you about not damning work, not saying you shouldn't work or you shouldn't work hard. I think you definitely should work hard. That's something else that I'm learning. That's a new development. That it's not the problem is not work. It's you. You're the problem. The way you go about it. Okay, so today, the title of this episode is Using Work as an escape. So let's jump into it. For me, work has been the greatest drug I've ever experienced. And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of drugs. Okay? I've done a lot of drugs, baby. I've done a lot of drugs. Work has been the greatest drug ever. Okay? Now, when I say work, I'm not talking about fixing the dishwasher. I'm not talking about cutting the grass. I'm talking about that hustle, baby. I'm talking about thinking about what you're going to accomplish in the next month and what that looks like in the next year. And once you get the ball rolling on some sales and some marketing and you get the cash coming in and then people are calling your phone, they need your attention, you're hopping on a plane to go here to take care of this business and you're meeting with this person to try to purchase this house. You're trying to do all this stuff. It feels so good. It's such a rush, man. It's such a rush. Without that rush, it can get pretty painful. The qualities to work for me that have been like a drug. I've got really, let's see, two or so that's been like a drug for me. I'm sorry, 3. Number 1, the reason that work can feel like a rush, like a fucking drug, man. Being on the cusp of the greatest success yet gives me a huge dopamine dump. Being on the cusp of the greatest thing yet, the next achievement, the next business deal. I mean, there's a lot of people you talk to, when you talk to them, they're right on the edge of the next thing. They're about to get this, they're about to make this, they're about to, flip this and make this to whatever. And it's so awesome. It's so awesome to feel that, the edge of achievement. That's such a great feeling. It's so damn good, baby. It's drug-like. The second thing that makes work in the past for me like a drug is being needed by lots of people. And the feeling of self-importance is intoxicating. It's intoxicating. Now, this is real honest. This is real honest about my experience. Being on the edge of discovery or being on the edge of the next $20,000 or the next deal, you're about to do a thing that's going to make you $100K. That is so dopamine driven. It's so much dopamine in your brain. Being needed by everyone, having people call your phone, and essentially, in my mind, having a reason to be quick with them. Having a reason to, oh yeah, I appreciate it, and hang up. Go to the next phone, go to the next call, go to the next person. You have a reason to speed past interactions with people because you're Mr. Important. You are Mr. Important. You have things going on. You got things going on, baby. You can't afford to talk to the peasants, baby. It's intoxicating. It's intoxicating. Now, I've never thought about people as peasants, but I've thought about myself as the man. And the more I had going on, the more people calling my phone, the more deals, the more flips, the more projects, the more I felt like the man and the more intoxicating that was. Now, again, I'm not saying this stuff is bad. These are the amazing gold feelings of being in the driver's seat. These aren't bad per se, and I really want to clarify that. These aren't bad, but these are the kicks, baby, of being in that drive mode. The last one for me, why work has been like a drug, is because knowing that you are sexually desirable. There's a quote from the amazing philosopher Young Dolph. He says, "Bad bitches love rich. I swear to God. I swear to God." He swore to God. And most of you believe in God. I believe in God a little bit. So I think that's probably a pretty true statement. I've experienced it. When you have money, people love you. People love you. The opposite sex loves you. And that is such a good feeling, man, to be desired by the opposite sex. Those 3 are like the speedball of workaholism. Oh, getting so close to the next kill. Getting so close to the next kill. It's like being, if you're a hunter, I'm not a hunter, but I imagine if you're a hunter, you hear the rustle over there by the bush. Or if you're fishing, you feel that first little yank on that hook, baby. You are, ooh, this is about to happen, right? When you're meeting somebody in a bar and it's hitting off and you guys have chemistry and then you start to, the first touch exchange happens and you think, oh shit, we about to get it on, baby, right? That dopamine starts to pull up. people needing you all the time, the intoxication, you're being the man, and knowing that people love you. You are desirable sexually by the opposite sex or the same sex. For me, it's the opposite sex. That is a killer, man. So working 24/7 has always kept me on this high from these things. I mean, it really, really has. It's kept me on a high from these things. And I've lived in a reality that's been much different than most people because of that. I have 24/7, since I was 15 years old, been in this like kind of like white knuckling, chin down a little bit, eyes really on the prize. And that's been awesome. Again, it's been great. But the problem here in the last 2 years has been realizing that my life in other areas kind of blows, man. My relationships, I've never been able to achieve the depth that I want. I can't even fathom the idea of having children or having a family. But I feel in my soul that that's something that I do want. My time spent relaxing isn't relaxed, man. It's not relaxed. So what's going on here? Well, these things have kept me in such a drive, such a driven state 24/7. And here's what I've learned as I've distanced myself from this compulsive work habit. Because again, it's not that I need to stop working. It's that it's a bull in a china shop. It's if you saw the movie Cocaine Bear, if you saw the movie Cocaine Bear, that is the feeling, baby. That's the feeling. That's the feeling, man. It's just you're so close to making that next dollar. Everybody thinks you're the man, or you think everyone thinks you're the man, or you think everyone thinks you're the man. That isn't of self. You don't need people to actually think you're the man. You just need to think people think you're the man, okay? If you're on the phone call fast, you're talking in public, you got meetings, you got things to do, you're busy, you got so much going on, you're the man, right? And feeling like everybody wants to fuck you. Everyone wants to hook up with you. You are the pimp around here, baby. Those feelings, that's controlled me in the past. It's just made it impossible for me to do other things, to be honest with you. Well, like I said earlier, I decided that that's not really how I want to be. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be controlled by this workaholic kind of thing, I don't want to be controlled by it. I want to wield my work. I want to take everything I just talked about, because it's all very true. I want to take the rush of being on the edge of discovery and accomplishment. I want to take the feeling of power that comes along with having people working with you on a project and moving players around, kind of like chess pieces, to say, let's move in with this, let's get a hold of this guy, let's make sure this happens, let's call so-and-so, he's good at this. That organization, that project planning, that team organization, that stuff. I want to take that. I want to know, the feeling of serotonin, the feeling of feeling good, man, the dopamine drip of knowing you are crushing it. I want that, but I don't want it to be unruly. I don't want it to be, I also want other things. And so welcome to this journey. Welcome to this conversation about what I've learned as I've pulled away from that compulsive working nature, that addictive working nature, to put it on a little petri dish, baby, and look at it and see what is this thing and how's it ticking. And here's what I found. That distance from that, without that rush 24/7, without that rush of dopamine 24/7, I've learned that without that rush of dopamine 24/7, I'm left with what's here and now. I've left with what's here and now. And it's not necessarily the best stuff. And I think this is so good. I think it's so helpful and so beautiful that I'm taking the time to do this, because I'm discovering these elements to my personality that are unconscious. They are unconsciously driving me to stay in this 24/7 work mode as a means of avoiding these difficult emotions below the surface. And yes, my intention is to reconcile with that working part of me now and moving forward. But I've had to push it away so that I could be able to see what it's holding me back from. So let's talk about that. And I do request a lot of respect and a lot of empathy and a lot of space. Because, I'm not just here to talk on this podcast and just say shit. I want to share with you what's really going on in my heart, what's really going on in my life. And so without this work stuff, here's what I've discovered. Here's what I've found is somewhat festering in my soul, somewhat pinning me up in my heart. I've got a couple things. For me, here's what's painful in the here and now. Number one. The number one thing that's painful for me in the here and now, the unconscious driver of my need, the need to work, is insignificance. I use business and success as a means of separation from others. What if I let go of that and I become normal like everyone else? That's the fear that drives me a lot. That's the fear that drives me a lot. What if I let go of this incessant workaholic thing and then I look like everyone else and I'm not significant? That sucks, man. That really sucks because you want to feel significant. You want to feel good, dude. You want to feel like, number one, you want to feel like can't nobody else do it. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing to want to have that pride that you do something that is extremely difficult. I think that's awesome. And to be honest, that's a new development. I'm learning that there are qualities to the drive to significance that are healthy and beautiful and constructive, but there are also some that aren't for me. And the thing that isn't for me is the separation, the using of business and success. Because this is the difference, man. Here's the difference. I've used business and success as an armor, as the thing that made me feel worthwhile. I mean, to be honest, in this last 2 years, one of the moments that I had of breakthrough was I broke down and cried, and I talked to my family and said, would you guys still be proud of me if I wasn't a businessman? And that's how deep that identity has gone. How much I've associated my worth as a person, my significance as the ability to be different. My separation, the delta between me and everyone else has equaled my self-worth. And lots of respect, please, to this conversation, because it's very transparent. As I've looked more into that insignificance piece, I found maybe what I think is the root of it. And it's just speculation. I'm not 1,000% sure that this is exactly why I developed that behavior and that identity. But this is the thing that feels very true to me. I think I started feeling separate from my peers in puberty. I had a lot of sexual repression, a lot of religious trauma growing up, and so I wasn't allowed to do the things that normal people do as a young person. Sex, drinking, experimenting with drugs. Just kind of being a young person. Firing from the hip, man, making mistakes, getting in trouble. And I remember that feeling, dude. It really started to cultivate for me, started to I guess you could say, begin to crystallize in me when I was about, I guess, 14 or so, 14, 15. I remember going to like my first school dances and stuff. And everyone else was, drinking a little bit. Everyone else was, talking about this girl that was really hot. And, everyone else was either with their girlfriend and they were going to definitely have sex after this, or at least that's what I thought. I'm sure it's true. And I remember that first feeling of feeling not part of the group. I had this fear of the things they were talking about, having sex, drinking. These were the unforgivable sins punishable by hell. I mean, I had this, religious trauma stuff, man. And I felt separate. And what's made sense to me looking back into that time is that was the first time that this need to be separate in my life, is if I trace that back to the first time I ever had the need to the first time I ever felt separate, and then maybe embodied that separateness and owned it, was in that time, around 14 and 15. I think I started feeling separate from my peers in puberty, and then put all of my sexual energy into work and began to be praised as quote-unquote other. I remember this being about 15 years old was when I really started to pile into fitness. I do think that I put a lot of my repressed sexual bravado, I guess you could say, the strength and all the compressed energy, I would put that into the training, the hard training, the food. I was going to get what's mine, and that was going to be, being the man. I was going to be fucking strong. I was going to be big. I was going to get people's attention. And I remember around 15 years old, 16 years old, starting to really like it, because everyone, I was not like everyone else. I wasn't allowed to be like everyone else. And that really hurts to say. I wasn't allowed to be like the rest of the kids. I wasn't allowed to be like them growing up and experimenting, because I lived under this cult-like religious shame and fear. And so instead, I still needed to do something with this, new spring of energy coming up in my body through puberty. And so what did? I fucking started hitting the weights and working out. And people started to look at me different, man. They started to say, oh, that's that guy that works out. I started eating 10 meals a day. I ate 10 meals a day every single day in high school. Every day in high school, man. I ate 10 meals. I went to high school at 116 pounds. I graduated at 230, if that gives you any picture. And I never used steroids either. I trained hard. I ate like a sumo wrestler. I mean, I ate so much food. I trained so hard. And over the course of 4 years, I gained 100 pounds, and I gained a lot of respect and admirance, or my peers admired me. And through that period of time, and up until even the last year and a half maybe, I found myself thriving on, quote, not doing that, quote, right? When I was young, I don't have sex. That's not what I do. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. It started with sex, then drinking and drugs, and then as an adult, I don't do the 9 to 5. Baby, you know what I'm saying? That ain't for me, dog. I don't do 9 to 5s. I work for myself, baby, Then not budgeting. I don't, money management, shit. That's for poor people, baby. That ain't for me. That ain't for me, bro. And people look at you, they're like, well, because when you really do spend money without looking at it, people are like, wow. And that feeling became really important to me. I couldn't be like everyone else, so I became better than them. I couldn't be like everyone else, so I became better than them. That is one of the pains that is laid underneath the surface, that's made working suffering for me. It's not working, man. Working's not the problem. You can work 16 hours a day if you want to. You can work 8 hours a day if you want to. It's not what you do, it's why you do it and how you do it, That whole thing I just shared is a lot to carry around. Maintaining your sense of significance by being unlike everyone else, and that hurts. It hurts. It really hurts. the next thing, two other things that I found are mulling beneath the surface. Relationship anxiety. This is probably the biggest painful one, because even if you feel different from everyone else, and even if you've started to derive your sense of significance from your separation from other people, the most beautiful thing in the world is relationship with other people, a relationship with someone, especially romantic, to be held and to hold, to love and to be loved, and to make love with somebody, to feel supported and cared about. Relationship anxiety. I avoid love because it scares me. Being too busy to be present is a great avoidance strategy. It's something I've wanted badly, romance and a relationship, but I've never been able to have. I've never been able to have it. I've never been able to enjoy it. I've always either dated people that I couldn't really have because they were very avoidant themselves, and so that made me very comfortable. I've either dated people that I knew it wouldn't work out with, so I didn't really have to feel afraid of falling in love because I knew it really wasn't going to happen. And when I have found myself starting to fall in love, it scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me. I think I put a lot of that on growing up in the church again. I really don't. I'm not an anti-church. I mean, I'm a Buddhist, a Christian, an agnostic, an atheist even. I mean, it depends on what day it is, baby. Depends on what day it is. But definitely the teachings from the church definitely did a number on my heart growing up, and relationships, you date to marry. That's what I was taught growing up. You date someone to marry them. You don't date someone to experience relationship. You don't date them to connect. You don't date them to experience a relationship at your current stage of life, which I think is the beautiful truth of relationships. If you're 15, welcome to a relationship with 15-year-olds. Experience it. Be full-hearted in it. Be honest and be authentic with how you feel, and be there. Be honest about your relationship, and experience it fully. Growing up, it was always like it was seen as kind of a bad thing, an irresponsible thing. Like, you don't know what you're doing, you're too young. And in some regard, sure, you're right. But in another regard, it's like, well, then, help me in doing this, because I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm 15 years old. I love the opposite sex. I love this person that I'm attracted to. I want to be with them. I want to be close. And all I hear from the church is, shaking their fingers, saying, you don't know what you're doing. You think you're in love, you're not. You think you like them, you don't. You think you know what you're doing, and you don't. And that really hurt me, man. That really hurt me. It really did a number on my heart. And so when I start to think about love, even now as a 25-year-old, when I have started to fall in love, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I love them, I don't. I can't trust myself. Why can't you trust yourself? You're 25 years old. You're a grown man. You should be able to trust yourself. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I'm scared. The walls are closing in, man. It's freaking out. What if I don't make the right decision? What if this person's not the right person for me? What if God has a different person in mind? All these things, all these fears, relationship stuff, man. Being too busy to be present is a great avoidance strategy. If you want to be avoidant in your relationship and you don't want to own your avoidance, just fucking start a business, man. just start a business, man. Because you'll be able to have the greatest scapegoat of ever. I have customers calling. I've got emails I need to respond to. I need things that other people don't have, this kind of stress. I need to be on the phone. And what's nice, man, is, every time I've been in a relationship and I felt that avoidance, I just called it being in the zone. I just figured, I ain't with all this lovey-dovey shit because I'm trying to make $1 million. I'm trying to make $1 million. But in reality, I am with the lovey-dovey shit. I am. And I just haven't been able to access it. going to talk about that in just a minute. The last thing that I have found that moles under the surface and eats at my time, and these are hard to talk about, man, to be honest with you. A constant desire for the dopamine rush from porn. This is the third thing. This is the sex addiction stuff. Porn, hookups, all that stuff, all that jazz. It's a similar feeling of being on the cusp of a reward. Like, that's the funny thing about porn. You watch porn, or, even if you flirt or you hook up or you make arrangements for stuff, a lot of times it's not even the thing that you're going after. It's the way your palms sweat a little bit when you start really looking into it, planning it, whatever. It's the way your heart starts to race. It's that I'm getting real close to a great thing. And the funny thing about, addiction, specifically sex addiction, is that, you never really get it. You love the chase. You love the chase, and you're addicted to the chase. I have found that my unhealthy relationship with pornography over the years hasn't really even been about sex. And I've got a couple episodes of this podcast that talk about sex addiction and healing through that, and I have a lot that I am really ready to share on one of the up and coming episodes. But one thing that I've noticed a lot about that is that it's kind of the same feeling. It's like this, just when you go watch porn, for instance, it's very seldomly has it been I'm watching a porn video as a sexual stimulation to feed a sexual appetite. But instead, it's like porn videos, multiple tabs. It's all this dreaming and fantasy that lasts for much longer than that my natural curve of sexual appetite lasts. And I found that I think it's more about the dopamine rush of oh man, this is great, than that it is about the sexual satisfaction. And that's one thing I found very much in my relationship has been much different. It's like sex in my relationship feels so much less exciting on a dopaminergic level in the brain. It's so much less jackpot. I just found Pandora's box of pearls, but it is so much more pleasurable and so much more satisfying. I mean, I feel satisfied in the sex that I have in my relationship for the first time in my life, because I'm not trying to have porn sex. I'm having sex. Again, whole nother conversation. But that's a third one that stirs under the surface, is this itch, addiction for porn and for sex things, and specifically not even for the porn, not even for the sex things. It's for the rush of it. It's, if you ever wanted to buy something, like buying it's cool, but how good does it feel to be about to buy it? How good does it feel for them to have it in stock? And you're driving down there and you got the money in your pocket. How good does that feel, baby? That's the dopamine rush. And again, it's a similar feeling of being on the cusp of a reward. So for me, the sex addiction, the work addiction, the porn addiction, it's all the same thing. It's all just this addiction to fantasy, addiction to fantasy of being right on the edge of the greatest thing ever. And a lot of times missing out on reality because of my inability to be grounded. So, as I've stayed the course and have begun to heal in those areas, what am I finding? So let's begin to land this plane here. Ugh, this is good stuff, man. As I've stayed the course and I have began to heal and get perspective in both of these areas, in all three of these areas, rather, what am I finding? First thing, trying to be important gets in the way of real connection. The thing we want most. We think we want to be special, but really, we want to feel connected. We want to feel connected. In the last few months, I have found that when I interact with people, I have two options. I can either use this interaction as a way to boost my perceived self-image. I can make them think I'm successful. This is a doozy. I can make myself think they think I'm successful. I can use this interaction as a means of boosting my ego by separating me from them. Oh, see, I have this. Oh, see, I've got this. And I've never said it in what felt like a very braggadocious way, but I have always said things and mentioned things as a way of dusting myself off in front of you and polishing myself off in front of you so you can really look at me and go, wow, that's impressive, Brax. Employees, revenue, ownership, business, buildings, things you've done, trips. But you know what? Trying to be important gets in the way of real connection. The thing we want most. We think we want to be special, but in reality, we just want to feel connected, man. Language is a huge part of that. Language, I've found that the way I use my language, and I've listened to the way other people use their language, you can use your language as a means of separation, name dropping, stats, dollars, achievements, etc. You can use your language as a means of separating and painting yourself in a way so people can look at you. Or you can use your language, your words, your word choice as a means of finding your shared humanity. And that's the thing that in that area, that is what I've discovered, is that, man, it feels so much better. It feels so good to find your shared humanity with other people. How are you today? What are you doing? Oh, you're moving to a new apartment. Ooh, that's a lot of boxes. You know? How is everything? Work. How's work going? You know? I found myself in conversation trying to find what I have in common with people instead of what I have that they don't. Second thing, and I got two more. I can fall in love. I can fall in love. That's what I've learned. In relationships, I can fall in love. I did in New York, and I still am in love. The thing is, though, it required me to turn on a different set of hormones, I think, or neurotransmitters, or whatever you want to call it. Cue Dr. Huberman talking about this. Dopamine versus serotonin. There's a book that I read called Molecule of More. And to be honest, for the sake of karma, I didn't read all of it. I didn't read all of it, but I've read a lot of it, and I've read that part quite a few times. Molecule of More, and it talks about the here and now hormones versus, or neurotransmitters. I don't know exactly what you want to call those. I'm not a neuroscientist, but the here and now chemicals versus the in the future chemicals. And the way that this book taught it is, let's see here. Let me get this exact. I do want to give credit to both authors on this Molecule of More, because I had already a couple months ago reached out to Dr. Lieberman and actually asked him if requested for him to join me on a podcast about this, and he said not at the moment, maybe in the future, but and Michael Long. So Dr. Lieberman and Michael Long write this book, The Molecule of More, and they talk about dopamine as the main driver for future events, what's coming up in the future, and serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins being the current thing. So getting something is dopamine. I highly recommend this book if you struggle with this topic. Getting stuff is dopamine. Getting to it, on the way to pick it up, money in the pocket, schedule being arranged, making it happen, all that's dopamine, 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 dopamine. But once you have something, it's very much different. It's hard to feel dopamine about something you have. At that point, it's about serotonin. At that point, it's about oxytocin. And it's a different circuitry in the brain. in New York City, being with Lauren in that isolated time for a month, working at a bar and grill. I got a job at a bar and grill. She got a job at a restaurant too, and we worked and just enjoyed being with each other. And for a month, I wasn't getting high on the dopamine of what we're about to do, what's going to happen, what we're going to do, all that work stuff. And I fell in love, man. I've loved Lauren for a long time now, but I fell in love in the way that goes like, all right, let's do it. Let's have a family. Let's raise some kids. I remember the moment in the shower, back from a late night at work, just showering, eating some food, getting ready for bed early in the morning because it was late night, and realizing that she had become the most important person in my entire life. You know, like, I love my mom. I love my brother. And, like, I remember thinking, whoa, if Lauren, my brother, my dad, my mom were all hanging off a cliff and I had to save one. You know? Damn. This girl means the world to me. I can fall in love, and I did in New York City, and that has been beautiful, and I've enjoyed that. And I've realized that I don't have to operate by the old things that people told me about relationships. I get to define rules and normal behavior in relationships, and that's been great. Lastly, I'm starting to find that I may not have to, quote, stop loving working, quote, but rather become more responsible and structured so I don't lose the other things in my life that mean so much to me. And this feels like the key. Man. Those are the things that I've really learned, and I'm learning a lot more. So this isn't an anti-work series. It's an anti-work as an escape from the work to be done inside series. This is not a don't work and this is not about, look, if you're thinking about developing some real estate, if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about fucking becoming the man, baby, be the man, baby. Let's go. Be the fucking man. All right? Be the man. Be the man. If you're thinking about going out and killing the biggest fucking animal you can get a hand on, if you're thinking about going out starting a business, trying to make it $1 billion, you know, I got a friend of mine, he's working on trying to make his business $1 billion business. And I believe in him. I believe he can do it. It's not about not doing that, man. It's not about not working. This is an anti-work as an escape from the work to be done inside. Because for me, and I think if you enjoy this podcast, you're probably on the same brainwave. You're probably on the same path, man. Or woman. Hello. Because you want to enjoy love, joy, peace, kindness, patience, goodness, gentleness, self-control. You want to enjoy life too. The life, the experiences, everything else. Man, be a worker. Be a worker. This is not about not working. So here's what I want you to think about. Let's close this thing down, baby. Let's close this thing down with a little bit of questions, maybe some pondering. What do you call it? Ponderance? I'm here in ponderings. I am pondering. How could you be working? Let's think about that. How could you be working? If this conversation has touched you and you said, yeah, Brax, I've got some stuff, that I've got some stuff that I think I'm using work to cover up. Great, man. Look, you work hard. You focus on work. Take that drive you got. Take that decision to do the hard things that you put forth in work and turn it inwards, man. Don't let your family suffer. Don't let your relationship suffer. Don't let your presence suffer. Don't hand down generational trauma to your kids and to your family. Don't take your need to be significant and push it on other people. Don't let it get in the way of the inner work that needs to be done. You could be working When you think about work, imagine this. You could be working from a place of proving to yourself you can do it. That feels real true to me. You could be working from a place of proving to yourself that you can do it. Man, making $1 million would be hard. I bet you could do it. I bet you could. Man, doing that to real estate development would be hard. I bet you could do it. Flipping that house would be hard. I bet you could do it, right? If you really put your mind to it, Brax, you could do it, man. You could be working from a place of proving to yourself you can do it, not as a way to flaunt to others, not as a way to flaunt to other people. I listened to an interview recently with Alex Hermosi, which is someone that I've even talked to in the past, worked with Jim Launch. And he talked about, what drives him. And there seemed to be a little bit of proving to himself that he could do it. And I've always associated that to be negative. Oh, you don't want to work from a place of insecurity. But I don't know. I mean, I've worked on my relationship out of fear, that I won't have a relationship in the future. So maybe in some regard, thinking you couldn't do something is a great motivation to doing it. But it's proving yourself that you can do it, not as a way to flaunt to others. Back to that significance thing. We're not driving a wedge between us and other people. You could be working from a place of responsibility and pride. Think about that. You could be tending to the things that need your attention in an honest effort to take care of the things that God or Spirit or Source or the flow of life has entrusted with you. You could be working from a place of responsibility and pride. That's what I'm starting to want to grow, to strengthen a place of responsibility and pride. Again, not as a way to flaunt to others, not as a showboatness. You could be working as a way to better your life. You could be working in an honest intention to better your life experience for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for your life. Not working to consume every minute of it. For me, that started to look like an overall lack of responsibility. That's what I've really started to see. That I want to change my fuel from the need to be significant to being responsible, being hardworking, and taking pride in that. I like the way that solidifies over the years. I wrote this in my journal this week, and maybe here's a good insight. If I do what I do because I need to be the man, right? Because I need other people to think I'm the man, I'll reek of it. Instead of throbbing insecurity, could discipline, pride, and responsibility get me to where I want to go? LOL. What am I going to do? Disregard it if it doesn't? If discipline, pride, and responsibility don't get me to where I want to be, what am I going to do? Disregard those beautiful values? Or probably do the proper thing and examine where, quote unquote, I want to go. If being disciplined, responsible, and hardworking and emphasizing peace doesn't get me there, do I want it? Do I want it? My shortcoming, I've realized, has been that I've tried to outsource responsibility since day one. My earliest employee was a personal assistant, and I just said, hey, I'm on the work train, man. You do everything else. You do everything else. You do laundry, you cook the food, you clean the car out, so I can just stay on this work train. And that bled itself into my organization. I always outsourced the work, but I never made sure it was done. I'm starting to learn that my job as a business owner, as a leader, is not to do the work, but to make sure that it's done. Doing the work are the things that I can only do. Those are things like marketing and growth and strategy and stuff. I can outsource work, but not making sure the work is done. That's what I have to do. Lastly, you could be working on things because you fucking love working. Enjoying it, not abusing it as a crutch, and not using it as a smokescreen to the things your soul needs you to address, and not losing control. Look, thanks for listening to this episode. really. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it's been helpful. Next week, I want to talk to you about how I'm starting to reconcile my relationship truly with the part of me that loves to work. You know I love to work, man. I love to work. Next week, we'll talk about that. Till then, I really hope you've enjoyed today's show. I really do. See you next time.